Have you ever wanted to enter a long distance automotive rally? Drive along with, say, 75 other cars and explore parts of the continent that you never saw before. Maybe get some time on a track. And what if that would benefit a charity? Seriously, benefit a charity. You driving around and seeing things, exploring the country, made a serious impact in the lives of those less fortunate than yourself. If you answered yes to any of these things, sit back, relax, and take a look at what I just came back from, the 2024 Rally North America Sunshine Rally. Our day one starting line was Pineview Run Country Club's road course. There, teams would take lapping sessions, both paced and hot laps, with limited passing zones. I led the way for vehicles that only wanted to run parade laps. Once we completed 4 laps, those teams hit the road to start their scavenger hunt rally day. The 15 or so cars that wanted to spend the morning hot lapping got their chance, as we had the track rented until noon. Now, I understand that an hour and a half or so was enough for the track rats before they too hit the road on the scavenger hunt. Our scavenger hunt is comprised of checkpoints and tasks that teams can do to accumulate points. Checkpoint 1 had teams looking for a museum dedicated to L. Frank Baum. You may not know the name, but you know his work. He wrote The Wizard of Oz, and a museum in his honor is filled with 1,200 plus items related to The Wizard of Oz and Mr. Baum's other works. It's located in Chittenango, New York, which is a charming New England town in its own right. My wife loved this stop, as did many of our rally teams. Our next checkpoint consisted of 8 locations. The Fulton Lakes are comprised of 8 connected lakes that are numbered 1 through 8. Teams were tasked with finding signage for each of the 8 lakes. Now, this sounds easy, and I was assured that the signage existed for all 8, so we made this a checkpoint. A big issue arose when teams discovered that lakes 1 through 3 are surrounded by private land and not accessible. Yes, a rally can never run perfectly. Credit was given to teams that found signage for lakes 4 through 8. An apology to my teams that made the attempt on 1 through 3. Checkpoint 3 was located in Lake Placid, New York. This small village is known the world over, as it hosted the Winter Olympics twice. Teams were asked to find the Miracle on Ice scoreboard, which shows the score of the game between the U.S. novice team versus the heavily favored team from the Soviet Union. The U.S. won, of course, and is considered one of the largest upsets in Olympic history. It is located in the Olympic Museum. Checkpoint 4 would require teams to make their way to the top of the Olympic ski jump. You take a cable car to a 10-story-ish high elevator to get there. And once you make it to the top, you can't help but think, why on earth would anyone actually do this? Checkpoint 5 was to ride the world's longest alpine coaster, which happens to run alongside the 1934 bobsled track. That was both fun and informative at the same time. There were additional tasks which, if completed, would gain teams points in the scavenger hunt. Photos of wildlife found in the area, finding a local firehouse and getting a thumbs up from firehouse personnel, and my favorite was playing the Olympic theme song at full volume on their vehicle stereo with the windows down while driving through a populated area for a period no less than 1 minute. This was a great rally day. Teams checked out the downtown Lake Placid area, its restaurants, the local bar scene, and or hung out in the parking lot above talking about the day's events. On day 2, our group was given the opportunity of holding our starting line on the Olympic speed skating rink in downtown Lake Placid. The town's mayor, Art Devlin, was kind enough to say a few words to our group prior to releasing them to their cars. Teams are given the choice of 2 locations for their first checkpoint. They could make their way to the Star Trek Original Set Museum and snap a few photos of themselves at various locations on the USS Enterprise, or they could make their way to Fort Ticonderoga, a fort that played a pivotal role in the Revolutionary War. Once there, they would need to find multiple locations and take photos with a soldier in period-correct costume. The next series of checkpoints were arranged to keep teams off the highway and on the scenic byways. We stopped by the Lake Champlain Memorial Lighthouse, the Appalachian Gap Trailhead, the largest zipper in North America, the Haverhill Bath Covered Bridge, and ventured through the White Mountain National Forest, stopping at the Hancock Overlook and the Rocky Gorge Scenic Area, before making our way to the hotel for the evening, the Town and Country Resort. Other tasks teams could perform for points included placing their team in front of a state welcome sign at official overlooks, in front of covered bridges, in front of waterfalls exceeding 20 feet, in front of signage recognizing Champ, the Lake Champlain monster, visiting Ben & Jerry's ice cream factory, or at the border of Canada, which no one tried. We had a great day overall, and the evening was surprisingly one of the week's highlights. The resort's one-man band played well past their normal closing time of 9 p.m. He played hits from the 70s, 80s, and 90s to a very receptive and well-spirited, some would say inebriated, cheering audience. For others, the parking lot get-together discussing the day's activities continued well into that evening. Day 3 led off with a late 8:30 a.m. departure, and it was directly from the hotel's parking lot. The team's first checkpoint was the main Mineral and Gem Museum. This place offered way more than anyone expected. Inside the museum, hundreds of gemstones were on display, and it housed the world's foremost collection of meteorites. Teams were able to hold a piece of Mars and the Moon at the same time. From there, teams were tasked with finding a World Traveler signpost, which listed multiple cities and countries from around the world. Towns in Maine adopted these names, and they all could be found within 100 miles of the sign. Checkpoint 3 was the original location of Poole & Water's Spring House. It was built in 1906. It was located inside a complex which also houses the main state building, which was on display at the 1893 World's Fair and moved across country to this location in Maine shortly afterwards. Checkpoint 4 was the Sabbath Lake Shaker Village. At one time, there were 6,000 Shakers in 20 different communities all across the United States. As of July 2024, there remain 2, and they are located within this village. The decline in the Shaker religion may have something to do with the vow of celibacy one must take before becoming a Shaker, but I'm far from an expert on this topic. From there, we visited a local Napa store, as they were kind enough to be a sponsor for our event. They also decided to have a cookout and provide our team with hamburgers, hot dogs, chips, and a drink, which was much appreciated. As to the task for additional points, they would include visiting a state park, placing your team in front of welcome signs from the cities on the World Traveler sign in Checkpoint 2, touring a local museum for more than 15 minutes, snapping pictures of vanity plates, and their vehicle with a moose or black bear, either of which needed to be alive and breathing. Our finish line for the day, and one of the highlights of the trip, was Camp Sunshine itself, and our greeting into camp was more than worth the trip to get there. Here, teams were able to see in person where the money they have raised over the last 9 months was going, and to meet a few of the families that it was helping. The camp had set up a barbecue for our teams, and our folks were able to tour Camp Sunshine themselves, see the facilities and activities that would be available to families while they attended camp. We held our award ceremonies at camp. One of the families spoke to our group, and they told their story and expressed gratitude for our accomplishment, and spoke to the importance of a place like Camp Sunshine and the impact of being there had on their family. We handed out awards to teams that had placed for each of the 3 days, to the team with the best costume, the best dressed vehicle, to our long distance winner, and finally to our Spirit of the Rally winners. I say winners because we had 2 that we felt deserved the award, and it was too difficult to put one over the other. We made our way to our final hotel of the event, which was in Old Orchard, Maine. That evening, teams spoke of what they had encountered during the week and told lots of stories and had way too many drinks. It was a good night overall and a great event. We had raised $196,000 for Camp Sunshine. So, what do you think? I thought it was a great event. We had a good time. The Rally North America teams that come along each year, they're some of the best people I know. And every year is like a reunion. We all get together and talk about what transpired over the last year. Talk about cars, obviously. And there's all types of vehicles that go to this event. We really don't care what type of vehicle you bring. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in doing, I've got some good news. We have a drives event, which is more like a guided tour. We still stop at a lot of cool places. We also pick up the cost of your hotels. We pick up the cost of your dinner. We pick up the cost of your breakfast. We pick up the cost of your entrance fees into all the attractions. And this year, we're driving on Talladega Super Speedway, which if you've never had the opportunity, it's very, very cool. Next year, we're going to be going to Texas, and we're going to rally the state of Texas. Not sure exactly how long that's going to last yet, but it's something I'm going to start working on here in the next week or two. There's a few people I need to thank. One would be Scott Spielman. He does everything else with the rally that I don't do. He handles all the things that have to do with details. He handles our accounting. He handles our insurance. He handles the website. He handles the registration. He handles all the fees and everything else that comes along with putting an event of this size together. And he does it very, very well. He's also just a hell of a nice guy. I have to thank all our sponsors. Without sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do anything like this. Eastside Auto Spa stepped up to become the prime sponsor of this year's event because we needed a sponsor. Napa stepped up, Napa Auto Parts. Redenzo Radar Detectors. They've been with us for years and years, and they come back every year. 4x3 Productions. They film our television show. You can find better produced Rally North America productions on Tubi. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see what we did in 2022, check out these videos over here. I'm going to put a playlist up there. My wife and I drove a 2018 Fiat 124 Spider across the country from Pennsylvania all the way to Las Vegas, and we did a 5-day rally in it as well. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Till next time, we'll see you.